Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. My name's Renee, and I'm really happy to be here catching up with you, talking about what I have been reading. I've just finished a couple books, and what I think I'm going to be reading next. I also want to make some fall reading recommendations for you. I'm actually not somebody who makes a solid TBR, but I have some fall reading recommendations for you for sure. I'm never short on the recommendations. And a couple of the things that I'm looking forward to reading in the next couple months are also some additional recommendations for you. So let's get started. I'm going to check every once in a while my microphone to make sure it's working because I don't wear it a lot, but I thought I would try it out again. My gosh, is it September 24th already? We're like, wow, we only have like a week and a half left of September. My daughter's wedding is just right around the corner. She's getting married in a few weeks in October. Very DIY, beautiful event that she's worked very hard at creating. And we've been working on table decorations and all of those things. We just picked up her wedding dress for the last time at the wedding dress store, and it's in this closet right here. This is my office slash craft room. But let's dive in. I have a couple notes because I don't have all these books with me, but I just wanted to tell you about what I have recently finished. So, Killing Stella by Marlen Haushofer has recently been translated into English by, I will put the translator here, and I loved her book, The Wall, which was first translated by New Directions a few years ago. And it was one of those books where I read it like a fever dream and then thought, wow, almost like that was a tough read. And that was really what I came away with. I was fascinated, but it was also in some ways tough. It's about a woman who goes to a cabin for, I guess, a week or a weekend, I don't remember, but then realizes when she wakes up one day and takes her dog for a walk that she is in a completely different world. And she might be the only person left living. Who knows? It's a construct that then creates the rest of the story. So that's not a spoiler, or at least I hope it's not, but it's right in the beginning. And I have found myself thinking about that story more post reading it than I did when I was actually in it. So it's one of those books that just seeps into your brain and it expands larger than the actual reading experience for me. I also finished another Elizabeth Bowen book called To the North. It could fit into Spinster September reading because Emmeline, one of the main female characters, is a spinster. There are two women who are eligible to be married, but one of them is a widow. She is a very young war widow, and they're friends. I liked it, but it followed a book called The House in Paris by Elizabeth Bowen that I loved. And I talked about in a couple videos back. I will link the one or maybe put it up here, the one that I talked about it in. That was fabulous. And I made the decision to read another Elizabeth Bowen right after that. And that's always risky. I tried to do that with Rosamund Lehmann, who I'm going to be talking about in a second. And also and I think if you read things back to back by the same author that are not in a series, you risk you really loved the book that you just read, which is leading you to read another one by the same author. you do run the risk of being not as thrilled. And so the whole time I'm reading it, I thought I shouldn't have read this right now because I'm not enjoying it as much as The House in Paris. So it kind of dragged on for me in a way. And then I finished Phineas Redux, which I was reading at the same time as East of Eden. These were two of my summer-long reads. And I did talk about East of Eden probably 2 videos back. Phineas Redux was, I mean, I've been reading Trollope for a few years now because I'm going through his 2 series, and now I'm in the, it's not the Eustace Diamond series, although that's what I want to call it. It's not. It's the Palliser series. Oh, I thought that the Eustace Diamonds was my favorite in the series until I finished Phineas Redux. Who would have known? I didn't think that the Phineas Redux book, which is another story about Phineas Finn later on down the line, would be so interesting and captivating because the book Phineas Finn wasn't that much for me. But wow, that blew me away. Okay, so that's what I've been reading. I just want to quickly show you what I'm reading now. And that is, I got myself into this George Eliot after I heard a couple people talk about it, namely either Trevor or Paul. It might have been Paul from the Mookse The Gripes podcast. And that is Daniel Deranda. Please let me know your thoughts on Daniel Deranda. And if you want to let me know how you feel about it compared to your reading of Middlemarch, that would also be interesting. But I don't know. I meant everything in the book to be related to everything else, wrote George Eliot of her last novel, Daniel Deranda, published in 1876. I loved Middlemarch. I'm going to reread Middlemarch. I think maybe in the spring or something I'll reread Middlemarch. I associate it with summer because I first read it 2 years ago in the summer, so I would want to read it maybe as the weather is getting nicer. Daniel Deranda opens with one of the most memorable encounters in fiction. I don't even know what this is going to say. Gwendolen Harleth, alluring yet unsettling, is poised at the roulette table in Lebrun, observed by Daniel Deranda, a young man groomed in the finest tradition of the English upper classes. Gwendolen, let's just talk about Gwendolen. I do like that opening scene. We have not met. Other than just that opening scene, I'm now 131 pages in, and other than that opening scene, Daniel Deranda has not made an appearance yet in this book. But Gwendolen is 20 years old, and she is a brat extraordinaire. But I also admire some qualities about her. She's not eager to get married. She is an individual spirit. And it's nuanced in a way that I just feel that this being George Eliot's last book and knowing a little bit about George Eliot's life and the fact that she was a unique individual makes me feel like that's interesting. So we'll see. We'll see. But please let me know your thoughts about Daniel Deranda. Then I got myself into a possible read-along that I found out about by following Footnotes and Tangents Substack with Simon Hassel, who does the War and Peace chapter a day read-along and a lot of other read-alongs. And he pointed us, his readers, to a read-along of The American Senator by Anthony Trollope. It only came in this Oxford University Press edition. I couldn't get in a Penguin edition, which I prefer. But I don't know about this. I started it. It was very dry. I'm already reading a Trollope series, but I thought this is captivating. Why would there be a read-along about this book? And I'll put the name of the Substack, the woman Claire who runs the Substack here. And this is a part of the like American Trollope Society. I could have that completely wrong, but I wish to express the depth of my scorn for women who run down husbands, an offense that I do fear is gaining ground in this country. So wrote Trollope of Arabella Trefoil, the beautiful anti-heroine of the American Senator, written in 1876. So is this. That's cool. His main concern is with materialism, seen through the eyes of Mr. Gotobed. Mr. Gotobed? That doesn't surprise me. Trollope loves to have fun with names. An American senator who is invited to the small country town of Dillsborough. There, during one winter season, he observes English country life in all its social aspects, so on, so on. I have not read the back of this book. I don't want to read it anymore. We have not been introduced to this character yet, or even Arabella. So I'm early days into this. I'm only on chapter 7, page 42. I am only at the point where I'm reading about Mary Masters, Reginald Morton, and Mr. Twentyman. It was really dry in the beginning. I thought, I don't know if I'm going to do this read along. And then I saw that it was coming up. I think tonight might be the first Zoom call about it. I think we're having one every couple weeks. And I thought, maybe I'll keep reading it. And I was reading it last night. And then I kind of got into it again. So please let me know if you've read this. Don't let me know what happens, of course. But, you know, just thoughts compared to other Trollopes, things like that. Now that I read the back, this sounds like it might be interesting. I love the way Trollope weaves together people and just the humanity and the fact that we're all imperfect. And he writes so beautifully about human failings, you know? Love it. So what I might be reading. Now, I have all kinds of ideas. I do have a hold at the library, and I'm forgetting what it is. So I will put it here because I have actually forgotten what this book is about. So I might put a few words here about what that book is about, but I might reread To the Lighthouse. I read this for the first time earlier this year, and it was lovely, but like all of Virginia Woolf's books, it's worth rereading to get the nuances. To the Lighthouse is one of the greatest elegies in the English language, a book which transcends time. That's by Margaret Drabble. The novel that established Virginia Woolf as a leading writer of the 20th century. It's made up of 3 powerfully charged visions into the life of one family living in a summer house off the rocky coast of Scotland. So when I think about fall reading, I do think about atmosphere, and that's why I thought this would be a really good time to reread this, because it is an atmospheric setting. And as time winds its way through their lives, the Ramsays face alone and simultaneously the greatest of human challenges and its greatest triumph, the human capacity for change. It's a moving portrait in a miniature of family life. It has profound universal implications, giving language to the silent space that separates people. Wow. It goes on, but I do remember that, and I do want to acquaint myself again with those 3 separate sections so I can share that and have a deeper meaning. I think that anytime I reread a Virginia Woolf, I think I reread Mrs. Dalloway and something else this year, and I just had such a deeper meaning and experience with the book. So what do I recommend? Well, I just looked on my bookshelves, and one of the things that I saw that I had to mention is Barbara Pym's Quartet in Autumn. This is a book that's falling apart, and the binding has completely come off. But I love this Barbara Pym so much. I don't love all Barbara Pym books, but this one is so dear. And it's just the right timing. Quartet in Autumn is the softly compelling story of human dignity in the midst of hopelessness. The novel presents us with Edwin, Norman, Letty, and Marcia, four elderly single people. They're people who are retiring. Four elderly single people who work in the same office. Their work is their chief point of contact with each other and with society in general. The two women retire, an act that threatens the lives of all four. Out of the tragic material of old age, Barbara Pym has made an almost musically perfect tale. Besides them referring to people who are retiring as old, I love what happens with the dynamics of the four. You get set up in the office and their dynamics, and then when the two retire, what their experience has been when they're retiring, because sometimes it's difficult to make that transition into retired life when we all have social setups and just dynamics and routines and ways of thinking of ourselves when we're in a work setting. It doesn't even have to be that you're working in an office, since many of us were not working in an office necessarily as time went on. But just that dynamic and where you stand in your organization and in your team or department, and how all of that just poof goes away when you retire, as it did for me. I retired early about a year and a half ago. And then what happens next when you don't have that context anymore? And I just remembered that this book really goes down that path. And I mean, it's of its time for sure, but I didn't mind that at all. It was published in 1977. Okay. Atmospheric. I have to bring up Rosamund Lehmann's Dusty Answer, you guys. The atmosphere that this book creates. It goes through the seasons. That's what I love about it. Can really understand or picture the seasons in this particular house. Dusty Answer is Judith Earle's story. Her solitary childhood spent dreaming in her enchanted house by the river. Her awkward, intense experiences at Cambridge, rounded with passion and disillusionment, and her travels abroad with her elegant, sophisticated mother. Above all, the novel is about Judith's consuming relationship with a family of cousins that live next door. All these cousins, when the story opens, are grown up, as Judith is, or at least she's a young adult. So it takes place there in that house by the river. It also takes place as Judith goes to college in the fall. And that's an extraordinary section of this book. And then adult things happen, to these good friends, which is Judith and the cousins. They grow up, get married, the war is happening. It's just such a beautiful and complex story. Let's see, when was this published? 1927. Atmospheric, beautiful, beautifully written. That was my first introduction to Rosamund Lehmann, and I have not found a Rosamund Lehmann that I love as much as this one. Oh, I brought up, you know what? I just wanted to show you this edition of To the Lighthouse because it's just so interesting. This is a Harcourt Brace Jovanovich edition. I must have picked this up somewhere when I realized I didn't. Yeah, I must have picked this up when I forgot that I had one already. Okay. Two more. This I might reread in Edith Wharton. I cannot remember which Edith Wharton I read first. Was it The Age of Innocence or was it The House of Mirth? Two completely different stories. I actually think it was The House of Mirth. It's the first of Edith Wharton's undisputed masterpieces. Its publication in 1905 changed her literary fortunes forever. Lily Bart, beautiful, witty, and sophisticated, is accepted by old money and courted by the growing tribe of nouveau riche. But as she nears 30, her foothold becomes precarious. A poor girl with expensive tastes, She needs a husband to preserve her social standing. When it was first published, The House of Mirth shocked the New York Society. It so deftly chronicles portraying the moral, social, and economic constraints put upon a spirited woman. I did read this first. I am now reminding myself I really enjoyed it. Lily Bart, the main character. And then I picked this up, The Age of Innocence, which I did like. This is what won Edith Wharton the Pulitzer Prize. But I like this old New York, turn of the century, 1905. It doesn't feel like you're reading something that was written in 1905. Very nuanced character and writing. I don't know, I feel like this kind of story in the Gilded Age, I suppose. Is that the Gilded Age? It's just perfect for fall. She creates such an atmosphere around Lily Bart's life. I cannot end this video without recommending Frankenstein. I've talked about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein before. This is not the edition that I love. I had a Norton's edition that I picked up at a used bookstore, and that one gave me a lot of background about how Mary Shelley came to write this novel, which, if you read that story, is a story in and of itself worth reading. How it was conceived when she and her husband and friends were, I don't know, somewhere in the Swiss Alps or something, and they decided to have a contest with each other to write a scary story. This is a Gothic tale for sure, but it's a tale about humanity. Whatever you think you know about Frankenstein, of course, this is about Dr. Frankenstein creating a thing that comes to life after he steals body parts, and then he somehow, with electricity, supposedly creates a actual living being. But this being is the star of this book, because we get to see how being shunned by the public, by humans, he's not a human, but he wants to be a human, because Dr. Frankenstein has equipped him to have the potential to be human, but there's something missing. And then when he's shunned and driven away from society, creates a lot of anger in this created being. I don't like to call him a monster, because if you read the story, you have a lot of empathy for this being. And what responsibility does Dr. Frankenstein have in creating such a thing, in such a being, I should say? Oh, this story just has my heart. It's tough to read. It's really wonderful to read. Of course, it's atmospheric, but don't take for granted that you know about this story until you actually read Mary Shelley's beautiful, beautiful, sensitive, nuanced writing. So that's my last recommendation. So thank you for joining me. If you don't need to hear about lifey updates, but other than my daughter's wedding coming up and all of that wonderful joy, I have been knitting up a storm, as I've mentioned in other videos. I've actually just recently finished this vest, and I will be heading to the New York Sheep and Wool Festival in Rhinebeck, New York, after my daughter's wedding. And I do have a knitting channel for those of you interested, and I'll list that in the description below. But I've been doing that. I teach a fitness class on Tuesdays at a YMCA. I'm still doing that. I've been teaching that class since June, and really having fun developing it with the group of people that attend. It's been really fun. And I'm also doing some work for the local, one of the local university medical schools here. And I am part of the standardized patient team, where we help medical students learn how to interact with patients in many different ways. And if you want to know more about a standardized patient program, you can look it up, and possibly, if your town has a university, medical school, they probably have a standardized patient program. But we get a lot of training, and one of the most important things about being an SP, as they call it, is to give professional and well put together feedback. And that's what we spent a lot of time training on. So I've been doing some of those gigs. You get to pick whatever gig that you want to do on whatever day that you want to do it. Usually they're half-day gigs. And then there's continuous training. There's training in many different aspects, and also delving into more knowledge about feedback. So it's been wonderful meeting medical students. I'm really enjoying that part of the work, and the doctors that run the program and who are instructors. So please let me know if you have any of these, if you also have any of these recommendations in line. And of course, please join in the conversation below. Let me know any thoughts about any of the books that I've mentioned here. And I'm planning on checking in with you in a couple weeks. Thanks for joining. I'll see you then.